Checking in with Oversight in Rhode Island government.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
Welcome aboard. Great to have you in. Thanks very much. State Representative Patricia Serpa, who chairs House Oversight, is back. DCYF is still kind of a turbulent situation now that we've got some transition at leadership. Anxious to hear what she has to say about that and some other issues that are going on at the legislature, including this kind of a joust between the House of Representatives, maybe the Senate, and the governor over IGT and Twin River. That is a fluid and very high finance controversy as we speak. We actually had Mark Crisafulli scheduled. He's the president of Twin River. Seems he had a slight mishap. Seems to be okay, but is rescheduled for next week, I believe, as we kind of follow that travail. If you've never seen our conversation with the chairman of IGT, you can find that on foxprovidence.com. In fact, you can find every program on foxprovidence.com, on Facebook, Dan York Show, that's YORKE. We link it on Twitter. Yeah, we're trying to stay all over this social media thing. All right, in the meantime, let's just kind of check in on some things going on in Washington. This Jeffrey Epstein story is unbelievable, and now the AG himself is coming out to say, you know, it was more or less very sloppy and investigative need now in the New York prison where Mr. Epstein was housed. Reportedly, he had a roommate. The roommate left. Roommates are supposed to be assigned to people who showed suicidal tendencies. Reportedly, he was over his past tendency and took his own life. I mean, you don't get dramas like this in real life. You get dramas like this in novels. This guy is linked to gosh knows who. And I think every American should keep their eyes and ears on whatever investigation is coming. The whole thing feels like an episode of a House of Cards. It really does. And I wish I had some answers, but all I know is this. It is stunning, dramatic, and tragic all at the same time, no doubt. Immigration policy, another step up by the White House, this time new immigration policy for self-sufficiency. This is not, by the way, for illegal immigrants. It's for legal migrants to this country. These are people who have green cards and the like. Here's what the network reported.
The Trump administration says immigrants in the U.S. should be ready to make it on their own.
Throughout our history, Americans and legal immigrants have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps to pursue their dreams and the opportunity of this great nation.
The administration announced it is expanding the definition of the public charge rule to make it harder for legal immigrants to become permanent residents if they are likely to use government assistance, including Medicaid, food stamps, and subsidized housing.
And what we're looking for here are people who are going to live with us either their whole lives or ultimately become citizens who can stand on their own 2 feet.
President Trump has long said America should have a merit-based immigration policy. Critics say this rule change is a step in that direction.
This is a rule that's going to impact primarily low and moderate working families.
The National Immigration Law Center is suing to block the rule, claiming it is racially motivated.
If you are not white and wealthy, the United States is no longer a welcoming nation.
The government estimates about 382,000 immigrants will be impacted by this rule each year.
You know, having standards for permanent status in the country, I think, you know, makes some sense. But having a scorecard that says, oh, you just went on assistance for a short period of time, not unlike any other legal person in this country, doesn't seem to me to be, well, it doesn't seem to be the American way. That doesn't mean if you have the position that you're some wacko lefto liberal here. I'm telling you that this is something that ought to be the start of a conversation. But the idea that there's now some scorecard, you got your green card, you're working, but you lose your job. And now you've got to find some work. And in the meantime, you're on public assistance, like so many of us citizens have been from time to time. That will now score against you in your status to become permanent. Well, I think there's a double standard. Either we're allowing folks to be here legally, they're paying taxes, they're on their way to permanency, but now they've got a different set of rules. I mean, our citizenship is not impacted by going on welfare now, is it? Isn't that the point, sort of? Stay tuned on that one. And then the president couldn't help himself tweeting out on Curt Schilling. Of course, we all are still wounded from the Curt Schilling episode here in the famous 38 studios. He's considering a run for Congress. It's not Schilling that tweeted that out. It's the President of the United States tweeting that out, who just spends more and more and more time on Twitter. Ask Mr. Scaramucci, his former communications director, who a few days ago suggested that the yellow light has now turned bright red in terms of the warning on the temperament of the president. Of course, he got whacked on Twitter too, right? As long as you have one of these, Mr. President, you are fully armed. Right? All right, headline here, oversight from the House panel, problems at DCYF. God, you got a lot on your plate.
I do.
Right? Don't you? Welcome.
I do.
Happy summer to you.
Thank you. Nice to be here again.
But you're still working through the summer.
We
You
are.
had an oversight meeting last week, and by all accounts, it was rather lengthy, and you're now making some, I think, constructive suggestions on how the interim nature of this whole thing ought to be facilitated. What's the status right now of not only what you're doing totality of House oversight, but specifically for DCYF?
Well, for DCYF, obviously, the scathing child advocates report was not anything we were going to put on the back burner for any length of time. I said if we ignored that report between the end of session in June and January, everybody would go on snooze. I was not going to have that. And it's not related to DCYF, but I'm also going to have another hearing this summer on MTM, the company that took over the transportation of our sick and elderly after the last contract, because that's not going well either.
Didn't it improve? Not to digress, but didn't they improve?
No, it has not improved. I'm hearing more and more from the providers that they just don't even bother calling MTM anymore. So while MTM tells us, oh, our complaints are cut way back. Well, yeah, they cut way back because people aren't calling you anymore. They're making alternative.
Does that impact their earnings, or are they on a set fee?
No, they're on a $115 million contract with the state.
Whether they're getting more traffic or
Correct.
not?
Correct.
That's a bad formula.
Or less traffic, in this case.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So whether they're getting, correct.
Right.
That's the better question. So they're on a flat fee for their relationship with the state, and if they're getting less calls, they're making more money.
Correct.
So you're getting, so wait a second. You have a service that is almost incentivized not to perform.
Correct.
Because if people are unhappy with it, they'll not use it as much. Thus, you need less resources to run your operation, and your cash flow is higher.
Correct. And when they came on, you heard correctly, when they came on board, they promised the cab companies that if they bought retrofitted vans and vehicles that could transport wheelchairs, they would use them, obviously, for those kinds of handicapped people who need rides. Well, I hear from the cab drivers all the time that their vans are sitting parked. They've outfitted and retrofitted other vehicles. They're sitting parked. They're laying off cab drivers. And we're the state that likes to promote small business. Dan, these are all small businesses. And their vehicles are sitting there parked and they're laying them off. And I'm told from the inside that this MTM is pushing bus passes. Try to sell it as what an opportunity for you to be free for the day, because not only will they drop you off at the doctor's, after you go to the doctor, you can go to Stop and Shop. After you go to Stop and Shop, you can go see your friend Mary. If you need transportation...
What do you mean? They're pushing, are they buying the bus passes?
Yes, we purchase the bus passes for individuals, yes. And we've done that regularly for short trips, short routes, for people who aren't, how do I put it nicely?
But MTM is peddling the bus passes?
To the people on the inside, try to get them to use the bus.
So they have less service to provide?
Less cab drivers to pay. I'm going to get to the bottom of that too. So your part-time legislature's at work.
Yes, well, I appreciate it. But that's the wrong formula.
Correct.
It reminds me of not to bring it up, but the 38 Studios thing, since the president mentioned Curt Schilling. One of the things that was insane about that deal was that the state dished out more money to 38 studios based on criteria that had only to do with hiring and expense, not profit. So the hiring, as long as you continued to hire, you got more money. But somewhere along the line, you got to show that you're solvent. So that's an example of a deal that just didn't make sense. The equation wasn't correct. This is completely different, obviously, but that equation doesn't make sense to me either.
Dan,
there's no incentive to perform.
In the short version of this story is that this is a $115 million contract that was signed, and I asked for a copy of the contract, and round about page 3 or 4, it said performance standards will be determined at a later date between the parties, meaning MTM and the state. So we signed this contract with any performance standards in place, without any expectations. We'll pay you for this when you do this. But that's another meeting for another evening.
All right, well, we'll take a break. We'll come back and we'll get back to the DCYF part of all this and our coverage of it. Stay with us. Yeah, so House Oversight is busy working this summer. Here was the report from last week from Eyewitness News.
We are beating a dead horse somewhat again.
The House Oversight Committee met to follow up on the devastating child advocate report released earlier this summer, detailing the case of a 9-year-old Warwick girl who died. She was found unresponsive in a bathtub.
There's just no lying our way around it because the truth comes out.
The report revealed the state ignored complaints about the adopted mother for years, ultimately concluding DCYF was partly to blame for the death.
Speaking of this case directly, I think we were all, and I still remain concerned that, one woman could adopt 8 children with such special needs. I think we all agree in the room about that. I'm asking, one of the second recommendations was, please increase both pre-adoption and post-adoption supports.
Another recommendation, get more staff. DCYF recently announced a plan to hire 23 additional frontline workers, costing the state about $2 million. Lawmakers were happy with that news, but questioned changes around other positions, like who's getting promoted, especially if they were linked to the fatal case out of Warwick.
So only one person who was kind of involved with this case got a promotion.
Yes.
You're saying?
Yes.
You're on your way out the door, and whomever comes in is going to inherit what you're leaving behind. So it should not matter to you if you present the truth today as you know it. And if you can't, somebody in your department should.
That was kind of an exit interview for Trista Piccola, correct?
Correct.
Trista Piccola, by the way. I don't know, I didn't get a good feel for her while she was here. She seemed pretty earnest and pretty personally devastated by the loss of that little girl, who wouldn't be. But the pressures of this job, obviously, and she had opportunities to get out of town and did. She was from out of town anyway. I sound like a Sioux Rhode Islander, don't I? Just we become so provincial here. I guess if you've been here 2 decades, you start to, I can't remember any road signs either, by the way.
It's contagious.
I just, I know where things used to be. But what kind of an exit interview was it? In the sense, did she do any more letting of the? Did she give you any more on the way out insight?
Dan, in defense of Trista Piccola, the DCYF workers are not shy about contacting me or members of the committee, and they will tell you, and I agree, she's not the worst director of DCYF that we've had. The lady walked into a terrible situation, a dysfunctional agency that was dismantled by Jamia McDonald, whose sole mission was to go in there and save money. She didn't fill any positions, so I'm told, so that added to their being short-staffed. She put her friends in high places, Jamia McDonald did, and they weren't necessarily the right people for the job. So, and I think Dr. Piccola is trying to make a little bit of headway on the 21 or so recommendations provided by the child advocate, but let's face it, she's got one foot out the door. They are going to appoint an interim director.
She leaves when?
Well, I hear she's back and forth between Arizona and Rhode Island as we speak. So I expect that they'll be appointing an interim director soon. And she has a right to get on with her personal life and her professional life. So they're going to be appointing an interim director soon. The permanent job was just posted, and I was told the other night by the new director of EOHHS, the Executive Office of Health and Human Services, under the big umbrella of which little DCYF is a part, not little, big DCYF, that they're going to do a national search. So this could take a considerable amount of time.
Are you getting a sense as to whether the social service professional community out there sees this DCYF as a great professional opportunity, or whether it is a quagmire and a stay away?
Both.
Turnaround experts love messy situations, because if you can turn around a messy situation, it's a career maker, right? But it seems to me that this DCYF, this particular State Department that handles children, of course the acronyms are all different from state to state, but everybody knows what everybody does.
Right.
I'm starting to wonder what a national search is going to provide.
I don't know what a national search is going to provide, and I want to get back to your first statement, but what we did in this budget was set aside $500,000 so that this agency can seek national accreditation. And to bring it down to a local level that maybe people can understand, if your police department in Cumberland, where you live, is nationally accredited, they have an easier time getting federal money for grants for training, for better equipment, protective vests, maybe even a police dog. So if we go through a national accreditation process, the agency itself has to turn itself inside out, I say, down to its underpants, frankly, and there's no hiding, there's no covering, because you have to flush it out, the good, bad, and ugly. And then this national accreditation agency will come in and do its own flushing. And as a result, and they're not politically connected to anyone in Rhode Island, they don't owe anybody any political favors, they come in here blind, cold, with no preconceived notions. So and that takes some time, but it's going to turn the agency upside down on its head. And I think that they'll be making recommendations. You're short-staffed here, maybe these many middle management people, you don't need to spend, I don't know, pick a number, $2 million here, shift it over into some line workers here, and it'll take time. So that's to answer part of your question. The other part of your question is, I couldn't believe that we needed to use an overflow room the other night for the hearing. Room 101, where we had the hearing, was full, and then there was an overflow room, room 35, which probably holds another 80 people. I never saw so many DCYF social workers and JPWs, juvenile program workers from the training school, come out and want to talk and testify. And I think it was the perfect storm. The new director, Wamzetta Jones, was there. Trista Piccola is leaving, so they're about to hire a new director. And on the heels of that child advocates report, now is the time ripe for change. If we don't make some changes now, we're just going to limp along.
But do you get a sense of any kind of consensus as to what the changes are supposed to be?
I think the changes can come from within. I think if those people felt listened to, respected, and empowered, rather than talked down to.
They need a bottom-up management philosophy?
More of a bottom-up management philosophy.
Is there enough, and I ask this completely earnestly, I have no bias whatsoever, is there enough talent and commitment in the rank and file to trust the rank and file to want to succeed in that business, or are they just state employees by the lot that are just trying to get by?
No, that's hard work, Dan.
Well, I know the work is hard. I'm wondering whether they're all, whether they've got the kind of energy and ambition, and whether their input would make the mission more purposeful, or whether they're just kind of riding out their time.
Let me put it this way.
I mean, that's a general question.
But let me put it this way. I know that a number of them just couldn't take it anymore.
Take what anymore?
Take the pressure and the tasks and all of the...
Too many case files.
Too many case files, too many complicated cases. So if they had another chance in another department to take a different kind of social work position, they did. And good for them. You should be happy in what you're doing. Some retired. But I have to believe that the people who stay there and fight it out every single day, working on weekends, not even seeing their own families, they're committed, Dan. This is a job I wouldn't do, and I don't know you that well, but I'll bet you wouldn't do it either.
I know. I have a lot of respect for these people.
Absolutely.
They're on a mission. I just know, organizationally, though, when you're this beat down, even bottom up is a speculative, you know, there's got to be a combination of. But to the question, you feel like there is a talent pool of fresh leadership that would want to come in and make this thing a go?
And I'm impressed with Wamzetta Jones immediately. The big director, the big boss, her background is in this area. So I met with her before the meeting.
It's kind of like this new commissioner whose background is on urban education.
Exactly. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of pulling the wool over her eyes. When she heard about the backlog of the number of foster homes that had not been certified yet, 500 to be exact, she and I were in the hallway of the State House having a conversation, and her eyes rolled in her head. She goes, "That's language that's foreign to me." She said, "We've got to get on that."
All right. You're doing good work trying to keep track of this. So a couple of things going on in the legislature when we get back. Stay with us. I only got a minute here. What's the pulse of the legislature on this IGT Twin River battle? I know it's another complicated scenario in hearings. And by the way, the Speaker and the Senate President just asked for more diligence from the governor today. What's your 30-second thought on this?
My 30-second take on this is, just as the governor said there was truth in numbers when we did pension reform, I would like for her to be as passionate about this IGT deal as she was about pension reform, and pose it to us as truth in numbers. And I guess we have to have hearings in both House and Senate Finance and look at the numbers. I don't know what Twin River is offering in terms of their proposal. I don't think anybody knows. I don't think we all know what's in the IGT proposal. So, Dan, honestly, we're in a flux.
Well, the IGT proposal, it should be very simple to vet. It's on paper. It's on paper.
It's a.
But this notion that we got to bid this thing out is more cliche, you know, intellectual approach to this. There's only 3 companies in the world that do this, and the 1,100 jobs that are part of this whole thing will go. They will go, and Twin River's not going to provide them as a substitute. That's not going to happen.
You said it earlier. We're still suffering from 38 studios.
A lot of distrust.
Yes. Yes.
You're doing good work on the oversight, as always.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Final word when we come back. Also a member of House Oversight, Blake Filippi, the minority leader on the Republican side, will come offer his perspective, not only on DCYF, but on these other deals. I'll be interested to see what Blake, he's a good guy and a clear thinker and fair-minded. I wonder if he's hooked on this notion that this whole IGT thing's got to be bid too. We are so distrustful of government that now we're going to default cliches rather than seeing what I think is pretty clear, and that is that there's $1,100,000 jobs at stake in this situation, and the hedge fund that runs Twin River, they know it. By the way, they want their own no-bid deal. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye.